I wasn't going to make a video, but more and more keeps coming out, and I need to talk about it. A warning, this is going to be a little ranty. It's going to be a lot ranty, actually, but what an absolute disaster. It's not good. I feel for the devs. We're taking time for the devs. And some of the devs from the last round of layoffs are still jobless. It sucks. We're going to call that the human side, but this video is going to be about the corporate side, mismanagement, all-around failure, and I'm patiently waiting for Bungie to comment on what's next. Sure, scoops and sources usually have some validity, but it needs to be addressed. I've read through a lot, thought about it a lot. More and more keeps coming out. There's a Schreier article, a couple Paul Tassi articles. Let's talk about the recent events. I'm gonna start with Pete Parsons. There's a reason past employees are saying things like, step down, Pete. And when you look at it, have you ever seen anyone champion Pete Parsons? Like, yeah, Pete's great to work for. Yeah, Pete knows what he's doing. I haven't seen it. Always negativity with Pete Parsons. We've seen 2 blogs from him laying off employees. And I need you to realize, each blog, each statement that he makes is a smokescreen for his failure. There is zero accountability. And Sony's got on record saying that they wish they would take accountability, meaning the higher-ups from Bungie, but there's been zero. And even in this one, it is clear as day. I'm sharing with you some of the most difficult changes we've ever had to make as a studio. We've navigated the broader economic realities. We are deepening our integration with Sony Interactive Entertainment, committing to 2 other major changes today. Keeps going on, keeps going on. It's been our goal to ship games in 3 enduring global franchises. To realize this ambition, we set up several incubation projects. We eventually realized that this model stretched our talent too thin, too quickly, goes on and on. It was such a large scale that we couldn't realistically support. I mean, really? And then we start getting into the economy and inflation. But again, remember, zero accountability to this point. The only thing that sniffs at it is that we were overly ambitious. And then we have this chain reaction that happened. Starts talking about how, again, we had a quality miss of Destiny 2 Lightfall. And with that, employees were told that Bungie was on track for a 45% revenue miss based on previous projections for the year. So again, realize if you and your brainchild issued a projection of 45% that was missed, that's not a dev problem. That's not a company problem. That's not a Sony problem. That's a you problem. You and your team made those decisions. You had those projections. That's a you thing. And you may not believe it, but the devs are on our side. They always have been. Even though you don't feel like it, they are. I know that they are. And they tried telling them. More on that in a second. So yeah, we were overly ambitious. Our financial security margins were exceeded. We began turning in the red. We. Even with exhaustive efforts undertaken across our leadership and product teams to resolve our financial challenges, these steps were simply not enough. So like really, all it is trying to get out of the red for the poor mismanagement that has gone on. All of it's trying to clean up failure. And the main question is, who is we? Who is we? Who is our? Because the layoffs of the narrative team, UI, musical, those definitely aren't we. So yeah, it is definitely you, and it's your poor leadership. It's a smokescreen, all of it. The things that you think are right are definitely wrong. More on that in a second. And at the top, they need to take it, absorb it. This is a you thing. This is the result of your actions. And they say that we will be hosting team meetings and town halls. I can't find it. It might have been deleted, but there's a dev on Twitter that said when all this was pitched, how they're approaching the Sony merger with these projects, the plan, you know, the overly ambitious things, as Pete said. We've set up several incubation projects. Each needed senior development leaders from our existing team. So we realized eventually that this model stretched our talent too thin too quickly. In those town halls, the devs, all of them stood up and said, we're not on board out of the gate. The devs told them that's not going to work. And I'm sure they gave their valid reasons, their red flags, but the executives in the room did it anyway. They were ignored. It's not complicated. As they said, they, quote, got too ambitious with projects because they were bought for billions of dollars. They hired a ton of people. Then, shocker, they didn't actually produce anything, and they were losing money. All the new staff, all the new things, all the things they're trying to juggle, all of that, there has been zero output, zero. And the worst part about that, they put all the eggs in those baskets, all that time and resources, the projects, the people, and they just canceled them anyway. It's a literal waste of time, money, and resources. And 110%, Sony has been pressuring them. And to make margins look good, they keep cutting people. We're in the second round of layoffs. It's not complicated what's going on here. Not even getting into things like the upper management leadership saying, oh, things aren't changing. We have full creative freedom now that we're with Sony and blah, blah, blah. I said it in a video last year. It is clear as day. Even from the player standpoint, we all knew they were working on various things. Destiny was in a bad spot, and it was clear that Destiny needed help because Destiny is the cash cow. Destiny is the cash flow. Then we have things like all the job openings, things for the new IPs, all the new games that they're working on that we know nothing about, the rumored TV show. So we got new armor to make, raids, dungeons, perks, whole expansions like Lightfall, new weapons to make, new events to make, new UI things like adding in loadouts, this, that, new stories to tell. And when you start listing and thinking about it, and, this and that, this and,
What I'm concerned about is right now as a player. It doesn't feel like what's already there is being paid attention to. It feels like it all does spawn from putting all the effort into the future instead of nurturing the content that's already there. If anything is lost in translation today, that's fine, but that's my number one thing. All does spawn from putting all the effort into the future instead of nurturing the content that's already there.
From a player standpoint, you should kind of stop worrying about the future and worry about right now. And with what they did with their only cash flow, you treated the player base as if they were stupid. Oh, they're going to be fine with that. This is good. This is going to get us by. Just kind of limping along, banking that Destiny's going to cover it all. Well, when you pull a ton of devs off of Destiny to work on a gacha game, this is the results that you get. And the devs have wanted to fix Destiny when we had pain points, help Destiny. And as the community, we told you too. PvP was being ignored. We told you these expansions aren't good enough. They're bad. They, quote, missed the mark. Why do they miss the mark? And to keep going with just how out of touch, out of mind the upper leadership is from Paul's article, as far as current plans, everything is divided up into, quote, strike teams now. Even individual missions, activity modifiers, they form, they're dissolved, they reform. The speculation is that higher-ups saw that players liked when things were called strike teams. So now there's a million strike teams. Absolute morons. How out of touch they are. The only level of strike team we have seen as a community is the PvP strike team. We're excited about the PvP strike team because there's been zero investment into PvP for literal years. There's the meme, over 1,000 days without a new PvP map. Joe acknowledged that. Joe saw that problem. 3 or 4 years ago, the higher-ups made the decision that PvP wasn't worth investing resources into. That is a fact. They stopped doing it. They disbanded the PvP team. All the PvP devs went on to different studios. Clear as day. It wasn't worth it from a cost standpoint to keep up with that side of the game. There's a lot of people that enjoy PvP in this game. The PvP strike team helped kind of fix 3 or 4 years of neglect. Added a new map. So yeah, we love the PvP strike team. Not because it's a cool flashy name, it's because something's getting fixed that the community cares about. Period. End of story. You could have called it whatever you want. If anything, it's just a team assembled to be the PvP team. We're excited about that. Feels like something that should have been there the whole time, and you kind of went back and made right something that you did wrong, and then you're like, yeah, you know what? They like that. That's a good thing. Just morons. What I see, it's obvious Pete oversold Bungie to Sony, and Sony's big mad. I'm not going to be surprised, and it's looking like it. The Bungie we know and love is going to dissolve into Sony Entertainment. And as a matter of fact, that might be one of the best things right now. Because if they're able to, Sony 110% should step in. If they're able to, fire Pete Parsons, that whole board take over. Because it feels like we're about there. It's been mismanaged that bad. And again, at some point, accountability has to be taken. And with how Pete acts, that's not going to happen. So give him the golden parachute, gone. Wipe it clean. The entire studio has been mismanaged. And it appears all hands are on deck for Destiny and Marathon. And in the articles, it said that there's been confirmed no more large expansions, smaller updates like Into the Light, a Destiny spinoff game was canceled, Marathon's still on for 2025, more on that in a second. And we've seen it multiple times, no Destiny 3, said Destiny 3 was a risk. Destiny's an older crowd, yada, yada, yada. They want new players. Well, the new player onboarding for Destiny is absolute garbage. It's one of the worst in gaming. And again, it's another thing that, when I talk about the past, that you should kind of cater to the now. Stop worrying on the future. I've had multiple people try Destiny, get confused, and bounce. There's no entry point, and the entry points that are taken are solved on Reddit and from friends. Most people try it and they bounce. In the end, it is leadership. The developers they have are very good. We know that. We see that in game. They just need leadership. They've always needed leadership. And I'm not going to get into the cars. I mean, he can use his cut of Daddy Sony's money any way he wants. It just makes him look just even more horrible, which isn't hard to do, but he just can't help himself. But at some point, that upper management needs to take responsibility. They either need to or they will be forced to. Because when you have all this thing telling the devs, nothing's going to change, and then we have layoffs. I mean, imagine you get your dream job, and Bungie says, hey, you're with PlayStation Studios now. We're forming a new studio. You're not working with us anymore. Yep. Get out of here. You're relocated. It's just a mess. With Pete Parsons, all trust is gone. No one trusts him. The devs don't trust him. He lies. The player base doesn't trust him. And we all get the feeling that Sony doesn't trust him. Just absolutely reckless with the studio. And you look at the Jason Schreier article, Paul's article. You see that Mark Noseworthy left, Luke Smith left, Joe left, I believe Katarina left. Written on the wall. There was no future for them. They can't make the game that they want to make. They aren't allowed to make the games they want to make. And it looks like it's going to be back to squeezing every dollar that they can. When I mean they, I'm talking about the upper management, not the devs. More of the teams are going to Marathon, and I do want Marathon to be good. I enjoy those kinds of games, but I haven't seen any glowing things from any of the playtests that have been done. Time's going to tell, but Bungie, they can definitely make a shooter. We're going to see. So what now? Paul pulled out an article on Sunday, the basics of what's happening in Destiny 2. 2 main releases a year. The first is something like an expansion on a smaller scale. The basics like a new destination, raid campaign, something like Shadowkeep. But with terms of narrative, this should be where we leave the solar system, explore other worlds. We don't know if it's going to be free or not, or if it's going to be cheaper. The second release is going to be 6 months later, and something more akin to End of the Light, a free content drop. Had a lot of success at End of the Light because it was a good activity. But again, the brainchild's like, you know what? Keyword, that looked like it did well. Let's do more of that. And it says between that, it's unclear. We don't know what we don't know. It is clear, though, they're definitely downscaling Destiny. The multiple reports, there's never going to be a Destiny 3. And from the comments of there's, these new IPs, Marathon, the Sony pressure, how they treated Destiny. And again, they is upper management. They said that Destiny 3 was considered a risk. But, spreading all the talent across 4 to 5 incubation projects, that wasn't a risk when Destiny was your only cash flow. I mean, yeah, great call. From what I've seen and what they're doing, they don't believe in Destiny, which, it's a 10-year game. Maybe they're just wiping their hands with it. The higher-ups don't see it like that, but that's all you got, Pete. And again, from our standpoint now, it just feels like they're going to pity pinch that. They have to because it's all that they got. Which, by the way, a day one strategy when all this went in, Destiny should have been a priority. The priority, because it's all they got. It's going to be Marathon from here, and if Marathon flops, the end of Bungie will too. Straight up. If you're new here, remember to hit the subscribe button. And if you are subscribed, thank you so much for your support. There's a lot of ranting in this. I told you that at the start, and there's still more to come out. But again, patiently waiting for the official comment. We don't know what to believe, what's true. We don't know what to believe. Not too long ago, Luke, which is no longer there, officially from Destiny, from Bungie, there's more coming, the future's bright, it's not ending, there's a renewed focus, all the buzzwords, lies. Tell us the truth. And as for me, I'm going to cover Destiny until I can't anymore. I legitimately and genuinely love the game. I love the game. And I will move on to other content at some point, other games when I need to. Just like with Destiny, we'll all cross that bridge when it comes. Let's talk about it down below. Thank you for watching, and until the next one, I am CoolGuy.